Did you know that every day, in every encounter, there's a hidden battlefield? It's the unseen struggle of manipulation versus authenticity, where our thoughts and hearts are the prizes to be won. It's not just in the movies or dramatic books. It's in our offices, our homes, and even in the palm of our hands through our phones. Imagine navigating this battlefield armed with wisdom from the ancient Stoics, thinkers who knew the value of the mind and how to protect it. They taught us not just to survive, but to thrive amidst life's chaos by holding fast to our inner citadel, our core of reason and virtue. In today's world, where manipulation can come from anywhere and we wear many masks, how do we apply Stoic wisdom to spot these tactics and shield ourselves? Stay with me and let's explore this together. We'll discover the modern manipulations that test our Stoicism and learn how to use ancient philosophies to guard our minds and live with purpose. This isn't just about escaping pitfalls. It's about building a life of authenticity, resilience, and true freedom. So, if you've ever felt played, pushed, or just plain confused by the actions of others, you're in the right place. Let's dive into this journey of empowerment together, guided by the timeless wisdom of the Stoics, and transform the way we connect with the world around us. Before we start on this journey together, I'd like to ask a small favor. Hit the subscribe button. It's a simple click for you, but it's a huge help for us. Also, I urge you not to skip any part of this video. You're here because you're not like the rest. You're an exception, looking not just to navigate, but to understand and master the complexities of human interaction. Stick with me, and let's unlock these thoughts together. Imagine you and your friend are close together, right? Then there's this third person who comes along, and suddenly your friend starts sharing things you said in confidence, or worse, twisting your words to create a story that pits you against each other. It's like being back in a schoolyard drama, but with higher stakes, because as adults, the emotional fallout can be way more serious. You start to question your decisions, your friendships, and even your sense of reality. It's as if you're playing a game where the rules constantly change and you're always a step behind. The real kicker? Often you don't even realize what's happening until you're knee-deep in questions and feeling totally alone in the middle of a crowd. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca taught us the value of inner peace and the importance of understanding our responses to external events. When faced with triangulation, a Stoic strategy would be to observe the situation with detachment, recognize the manipulation for what it is, and refuse to let it disrupt your inner serenity. It's about understanding that while you can't control the actions of others, you can control your response. Stoic wisdom also teaches us about the importance of direct communication and finding clarity in our interactions. If you suspect collusion, approach the people involved with honesty and openness. Often, bringing hidden things into the light can dissolve the shadows of manipulation. In the face of triangulation, your strongest allies are your self-awareness, your capacity to scrutinize the narrative surrounding you, and your dedication to upholding direct and transparent relationships. It's not about avoiding the leak in your boat. It's about understanding how to patch it up quickly and keep sailing forward, guided by the stars of wisdom and integrity. In real life, it manifests in cases where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Each option laid out before you seems to lead to some form of critique or disappointment, successfully trapping you in a cycle of perpetual wrong choices. Here's a classic example. Imagine being encouraged to share your ideas and speak your mind, to bring your true self to the table. So you muster up the guts, you open up, and bam, you're criticized or dismissed for doing just that. It's confusing, right? It's as if you're being told to jump into the pool, but the moment you do, you're scolded for getting wet. This technique is a favorite for manipulators because it keeps you off balance. You start second-guessing yourself, your choices, and even your perceptions. The ground beneath you feels unstable because the rules seem to change based on someone else's whims. Stoicism also teaches us about the dichotomy of control, an idea that's incredibly useful here. It's about understanding what is within our power and what isn't. Your acts, your responses, your integrity, these are under your control. Other people's actions, including their efforts to trap you in a double bind, are not. So when you're encouraged to speak up only to be criticized, remember that your worth and the value of your efforts are not determined by the reactions of others. They are determined by your own commitment to speaking and acting with integrity. The Stoic approach would be to recognize the double bind for what it is, an external challenge, not a reflection of your worth or skills. It encourages us to react not with frustration or self-doubt, but with a calm and detached assessment of the situation. Can you explain the expectations? Can you discuss the conflicting feedback? If the situation stays untenable, perhaps the Stoic practice of turning inward and focusing on maintaining your own ethical standards is the best path forward. This can be particularly insidious because it not only confuses you, but can also make you question your own actions and feelings. For instance, if someone is feeling guilty about their own dishonesty, they might accuse you of being the lie. Or if they struggle with jealousy, they might claim that you're the one who can't be trusted. It's a defense mechanism, a way of avoiding the discomfort of facing their own flaws by making them about someone else, namely you. Stoicism urges us to question the validity of the accusations being projected onto us. Are they a true reflection of our character or deeds, or are they a mirror reflecting someone else's issues? By keeping a clear sense of self and staying grounded in our own truth, we can deflect these unfounded projections without allowing them to penetrate our peace of mind. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to meet others' faults with kindness and understanding. Recognizing projection for what it is, a sign of someone else's inner turmoil, allows us to react not with anger or defensiveness, but with patience and empathy. This doesn't mean we accept the projection as true or let it slide without discussion. Instead, we can gently but strongly refute the false accusations and, if possible, encourage the projector to think about their own behavior. The Stoic approach to dealing with projection also includes recognizing the limits of our responsibility. We are responsible for our deeds, our integrity, and our responses. We are not responsible for carrying the mental baggage that others try to unload on us. This distinction is important for maintaining our emotional well-being in the face of projection. It's also helpful to maintain strong personal boundaries when dealing with projection. Stoicism shows us the value of knowing what belongs to us and what does not, emotionally, psychologically, and ethically. When someone projects their faults onto us, it's a clear signal to reinforce those limits and protect our garden from someone else's trash, so to speak. This manipulation technique can pop up anywhere. In sales, it's the limited time offer that pushes you to buy something right now. In relationships, it might be a partner asking for a quicker commitment than you're comfortable with. And in the workplace, it could manifest as unreasonable deadlines that force you to make choices without adequate knowledge or consideration. One of the core concepts of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, distinguishing between what is within our power and what is not. When faced with time pressure, it's crucial to remember that while we may not control the outward demands placed on us, we do control our reactions to these demands. We can choose to take a breath, step back, and assess the situation with the clarity and rationality that Stoicism supports. Seneca emphasizes the value of time as our most precious resource, yet Stoicism also teaches us that the quality of our choices, how aligned they are with our values and rational understanding, is far more important than the speed with which we make them. Therefore, when someone tries to rush us, invoking the knowledge of Seneca can be a powerful antidote. It's about recognizing that urgency is often artificial, and that real opportunities, real friends, and genuine deals will give us the space and time to make choices that are right for us. Marcus Aurelius pushes us to focus on the present moment and act with purpose and integrity. This Stoic habit can be incredibly helpful when dealing with time pressure. By staying present and not getting swept up in the frenzy of a ticking clock, we can maintain our composure and make choices that reflect our true selves and our genuine best interests. The Stoic approach to time pressure also includes practicing courage. The courage to say no, the courage to ask for more time, and the courage to stand by our decisions, even if they go against the grain of urgency imposed by others. It's about having the strength to resist the wave of immediacy and choose the path that fits with our reasoned judgment and personal values. This method is particularly jarring because it plays with our basic human need for stability and predictability in relationships. When someone's behavior toward us is unclear, it triggers a deep sense of unease. We're wired to seek approval and a sense of belonging, so when these are given and then suddenly withdrawn, it leaves us craving more, trying to figure out the puzzle, and inevitably walking on eggshells. The Stoics teach us that our happiness and peace of mind should not rest on external factors, including the behavior of others. Seneca advises us to anchor our happiness in our own virtue and reason, rather than in the praise or disapproval of others. Epictetus tells us that we have the power to choose our responses to external events. When faced with inconsistency, we can choose to stay centered, telling ourselves that the only thing we truly control is our own thoughts and actions. This doesn't mean we become indifferent or uncaring about how others treat us. Instead, it means we don't let our mental well-being be at the mercy of someone else's fluctuating moods. Practicing Stoicism in the face of inconsistency means developing a sense of self-worth that is independent of external validation. It entails understanding that while we may desire consistency and clarity in our relationships, we don't need them to be content or feel good about ourselves. Marcus Aurelius urges us to find tranquility within ourselves, regardless of external chaos. This internal calm becomes our compass, guiding us through the fog of inconsistency without losing our way. Moreover, Stoicism teaches us the value of clear communication and setting limits. Inconsistency in others might sometimes be a call for us to express our wants and expectations more clearly. It invites us to practice the Stoic virtues of courage and justice, courage to address the problem directly, and justice to do so with kindness and respect for both ourselves and the other person. Imagine someone has taken your emotions, those raw and real feelings that make you who you are, and locked them up. To get them back and feel okay again, you're told you must pay a price. Maybe it's doing something you're uncomfortable with, or maybe it's sacrificing your own wants or values. It's as though your feelings are being held hostage, and the ransom is your compliance, your willingness to do whatever it is that the blackmailer wants. This isn't just manipulation. It's manipulation that cuts deep, using the very essence of your human experience, your ability to feel, against you. Emotional blackmail can appear in many ways: guilt trips, fear-mongering, obligation, and shaming. It's a tactic that plays on our fears, our loves, and our desires to be seen as good, caring people. But here's the thing: real love and real respect don't come with strings attached. They're not conditional on meeting a set of demands or sacrificing your well-being for someone else's wishes. Stoicism tells us that while we cannot control the actions or demands of others, we can control our responses to them. We can choose not to play the game. Marcus Aurelius teaches us about the importance of living in accordance with nature, which means being true to our own nature and character. When someone tries to use emotional blackmail against us, they're asking us to act against our nature, to betray our own values and integrity for the sake of their desires. The Stoic response is to hold firm to our principles, to behave with virtue, and to keep our inner peace and dignity regardless of external pressures. Stoicism also teaches us about the value of compassion, both for ourselves and for others. In the face of emotional blackmail, it's crucial to offer compassion to ourselves, to recognize that it's okay to feel upset or conflicted, but also to remember that we don't have to act on those feelings. It's equally important to try to understand where the other person is coming from, as their actions are likely driven by their own pain or unmet needs. However, knowing does not mean acquiescing. We can show empathy without sacrificing our autonomy. This isn't just a disagreement, it's an attempt to make you question your view of reality itself. That's gaslighting. It's a form of manipulation so subtle and insidious that it can shake the very foundations of your faith, making you doubt your memory, your sanity, and even your truth. Gaslighting can come in many forms: denying something you know happened, contradicting your feelings, or rejecting your concerns as irrational or overly sensitive. The goal is always the same: to undermine your trust in your own experiences and views, making you more dependent on the manipulator's version of reality. Marcus Aurelius tells us to be steadfast in the face of external turmoil. He teaches us to believe in our own perceptions and return to our internal citadel, our place of rationality and inner peace, where no one else's words can reach us. Stoicism also encourages us to engage in constant self-reflection and to examine our beliefs and perceptions with clarity and honesty rather than doubt. This practice can be incredibly empowering in the context of gaslighting. It helps us to differentiate between legitimate self-examination and the external imposition of doubt. By knowing ourselves and our thoughts deeply, we can recognize when our reality is being unfairly challenged. The Stoic approach to gaslighting is not about becoming impervious to manipulation, but about recognizing it for what it is: an external attempt to control and destabilize, and reacting with the strength of our internal fortitude, our commitment to our truth, and our trust in our own perceptions. It's about keeping our mental and emotional equilibrium even when someone tries to tell us the sky isn't blue. False social praise. This tactic leverages our deep-seated human need to join and be part of the tribe. It says in our ears that to fit in, we must follow the crowd, even when our gut tells us otherwise. But here's the twist: just because someone says everyone is doing it, doesn't make it true. This is a classic case of false social approval, a manipulation technique meant to sway our actions or opinions by exploiting our desire for social conformity. Marcus Aurelius told us to act in accordance with nature, our own nature, and to be true to ourselves. His teachings tell us that when faced with false social approval, our actions should line up with our inner virtues, not with the fleeting trends of social consensus. He prompts us to ask ourselves, is this action virtuous? Does it contribute to the common good? Is it in harmony with my true self? Stoicism also teaches us about the power of ataraxia, peace of mind achieved by living in accordance with reason. This concept becomes particularly important in the face of false social approval. By staying true to our reasoned judgments and not being swayed by the supposed actions of the masses, we maintain our inner peace. This doesn't mean isolating ourselves from society or rejecting social rules outright. Rather, it means critically assessing the value and effect of these norms on our lives and making conscious choices about which to follow. Furthermore, the Stoic practice of premeditation, visualizing possible challenges and preparing oneself to face them, can be invaluable here. By anticipating situations where false social approval might be leveraged against us, we can fortify our thoughts, rehearsing our adherence to Stoic principles and our commitment to acting with integrity regardless of external pressures. Picture yourself excited and ready to face a puzzle, but as you start to piece it together, you realize that half the pieces are missing. No matter how hard you try, you can't finish the picture. You can't see the whole thing. This frustration is similar to the experience of having crucial information concealed from you. It's a deliberate act to skew your perception and keep you from seeing the full truth, thus influencing your choices and opinions based on incomplete data. The concealment of information can happen in various contexts, in personal relationships where someone might withhold feelings or intentions, in professional settings where full details of a project or decision might be kept under wraps, or even in larger societal or political discussions where the full facts are not disclosed to the public. This tactic plays on our natural desire to understand and make sense of our world. When parts of the puzzle are deliberately kept from us, it can lead to confusion, misunderstandings, and misguided actions. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, advised against hasty judgments and choices made without full understanding. He would counsel us to be patient, to question, and to seek out as much information as possible before forming an opinion or making a choice. This doesn't mean we become paralyzed by indecision, but rather that we acknowledge the incomplete nature of our understanding and continue with a measured and reasoned approach. Moreover, Marcus Aurelius reminds us of the value of inner knowledge and the pursuit of truth for its own sake. When faced with the concealment of information, we are asked to tap into our own inner resources, to use our reason and judgment, to question the gaps in our knowledge, and to seek out additional sources of information. This pursuit of the full picture is not just about making better choices. It's about aligning ourselves more closely with the Stoic ideal of living in accordance with nature and truth. Fear connection. It's about using scare tactics to control your actions by attaching a frightening result to any choice other than compliance. It's a strong form of manipulation because it taps into one of our most primal instincts: fear. Fear attachment can manifest in various aspects of life, from personal relationships where one might say, "If you leave, you'll never find someone like me again," to professional environments where the implication might be, "Do this, or your career here is over." It creates a scenario where fear, rather than rational judgment, becomes the driving force behind your decisions. The Stoics teach us that fear, like any other emotion, is not an accurate reflection of reality, but rather a perception that can be examined, understood, and eventually controlled. Marcus Aurelius tells us of the power of our rational mind to maintain equanimity in the face of external disturbances, including attempts to manipulate us through fear. He advocates for a return to our inner citadel, our place of reason and virtue, where we can find the clarity and strength to stand firm in our choices, unaffected by external noise and unfounded threats. Moreover, Seneca says that often, when we confront our fears head-on, we find that they are not as insurmountable as they seemed. When we face the supposed consequences of non-compliance, we often find that the power they held over us lessens, freeing us to make decisions based on our true values and best interests rather than out of fear. This tactic is a standard move in the manipulator's playbook, shifting responsibility away from themselves and onto you, making you the fall guy for their actions or mistakes. The blame game can be particularly damaging because it not only places undue stress and guilt on you, but can also tarnish your image and relationships with others. It's a tactic that relies on creating confusion and doubt, making it challenging to see the situation clearly and protect yourself effectively. When accused unfairly, it's crucial to remember that, while we may not control the charges themselves, we do control how we react to them. The Stoic approach encourages us to react with reason and calm, to examine the facts of the situation, and to stand firm in our truth. Marcus Aurelius advises us to meet false accusations with tranquility and to keep our character in the face of adversity. He would counsel us not to retaliate with anger or defensiveness, but to calmly present our case and let our deeds speak to our character. This Stoic composure allows us to keep our dignity and peace of mind, even when faced with undue blame. Seneca offers wisdom on dealing with adversity and false accusations, suggesting that our character and virtues will eventually vindicate us. He advocates for patience and understanding, knowing that sometimes the truth takes time to emerge. In the meantime, we should live in such a way that those who know us will not believe the false charges, and those who do not will be won over by our steadfast virtue. False praise. This is where flattery is used, not as a form of true kindness, but as a tool to lower your defenses and make you more susceptible to manipulation. False praise can be especially tricky to navigate because it plays on our natural desire for approval and validation. It's sweet on the surface, making us feel seen and appreciated, but the underlying intent is to influence our actions or decisions to someone else's benefit. It takes a discerning eye to differentiate between sincere compliments and flattery with an agenda. Stoicism teaches us the value of self-awareness and the importance of basing our self-esteem on our own judgments and virtues rather than on outward approval. It encourages us to question the purpose behind the praise and to keep our equilibrium, whether we're being criticized or complimented. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to be indifferent to the opinions of others, whether they are negative or positive, and focus instead on living according to reason and virtue. When we receive praise, the Stoic method is to appreciate it, but not let it sway us from our path or cloud our judgment. It's about understanding that real worth comes from our actions and character, not from the flattery of others. Epictetus highlights the importance of discernment, being able to distinguish between what is truly good, actions in accordance with virtue, and what simply appears to be good, like empty praise. He would advise us to examine the compliments we receive. Do they align with our own understanding of our virtues and actions, or are they trying to manipulate us into acting against our best interests? This is a complicated tactic because it plays on one of our most noble instincts, the desire to help those in need. It puts you in a bind where saying no can feel like abandoning someone in their hour of need, even when your gut tells you that their distress might not be as simple as it seems. Stoicism shows us the importance of wisdom, the ability to see things for what they truly are. It encourages us to look beyond the surface, to question the narrative being presented, and to discern whether our help is truly needed or if we're being manipulated under the guise of victimhood. Marcus Aurelius urges us to act with kindness and justice, but also with knowledge. He would counsel us to extend our empathy judiciously, ensuring that our desire to help is not being exploited for manipulative goals. Stoicism doesn't call for a hardening of the heart, but for a sharpening of the mind to see when our values are being turned against us. Seneca, with his insight into the complexities of human relationships, tells us that true help does not always mean giving others what they want, but what they truly need. Sometimes the most compassionate reaction can be to encourage self-sufficiency and resilience, rather than acquiescing to demands that serve only to entrench the manipulator's victim narrative. Here, the Stoic practice of reflection is also useful. By reflecting on our relationships, we can better understand when our empathy is being exploited. This reflection allows us to set healthy limits, giving support in ways that are truly helpful without becoming enmeshed in manipulative dynamics. This is generally known as giving the cold shoulder. Imagine you're in the middle of a conversation and suddenly the other person goes silent. refusing to recognize your words, your presence, or even your very existence. This isn't just an awkward pause, it's a deliberate act, using the lack of communication as a weapon. This silence is heavy, filled with unspoken messages meant to make you feel invisible, unworthy, or anxious, pushing you into a corner where you're left questioning your actions and your value. Intentional silence can be deeply disconcerting because it attacks a fundamental human need, the need for connection and acknowledgement. When someone decides to withhold these, it's not just communication that's being denied, it's recognition and validation. But here's an important truth to hold on to. Silence can say more about the person employing it as a tactic than it does about you or your worth. So how does Stoicism help us face this frightening silence? It teaches us that our worth and peace of mind come not from outward validation, but from living in accordance with our own values and principles. Marcus Aurelius advises us to look inward, to find tranquility and self-assurance in our own judgments and actions, rather than being swayed by the approval or disapproval of others. When faced with intentional silence, this Stoic principle encourages us to focus on our own integrity and self-worth, independent of the acknowledgement from those around us. Seneca offers wisdom on patience and endurance, virtues that are particularly important when navigating the terrain of intentional silence. He teaches us that sometimes the best response is to maintain our dignity, to continue living virtuously, and to let our deeds speak for themselves. In doing so, we show that our self-esteem is not hostage to others' willingness to communicate. Moreover, Stoicism encourages us to offer compassion, even towards those who use silence as a weapon. This doesn't mean we accept poor treatment or lessen our worth. Rather, it means we understand that such behavior often stems from the other person's struggles or inability to communicate effectively. From this place of understanding, we can choose to respond with empathy, trying to bridge the gap without compromising our self-respect. As we close this chapter of our Stoic journey together, remember, in the vast tapestry of human interaction, manipulation may weave its threads around us, but it is the strength of our own character, the clarity of our reason, and the steadfastness of our virtue that determine the pattern of our lives. I invite you to watch one of the suggested videos on the screen. Let's keep this conversation going, delving deeper into the wisdom of the Stoics and developing a life of virtue, resilience, and profound peace. Thank you for walking this road with me today and being an integral part of Stoicism Insights. See you soon.